June the 15th, 1996, a day Manchester will never forget. The largest bomb ever to be detonated on mainland Britain tore out the heart of Manchester. Hundreds were injured, surrounding buildings left devastated by the blast. This was the trigger of Manchester's master class in regeneration. The blast could be heard from miles around, shattering virtually every window within a half-mile radius and leaving a crater of 15 meters surrounding it. For those that bared witness, the picture could not be described. Glass rained from the sky like the rain that so frequently visited Manchester.
Manchester was in a pretty dark place. It really was your post-industrial town before it kind of redeveloped itself. And I can remember, I lived in Manchester in the 90s. I can remember taking the train from Manchester to Warrington, and as the train pulled out of Oxford Road, you'd look down on these kind of disused warehouses, which were, kind of all run down, and the canal that was full of bike frames and all that sort of thing. It was a real armpit, Manchester was in the 90s. I think that the rejuvenation that followed on from the bomb was would not have happened as it did without that bomb going off. I know it's all anecdotal. I know a lot of people at the time in Manchester were saying that because Manchester was a grim, dark, dirty place in the 90s, just starting to sort of reinvent itself. I think it wouldn't have invented itself at the pace it did if it hadn't been for the bomb.
As far as the EU is concerned and what it did for Manchester, it's not within the EU's gift to pick and choose where its money goes. It allocates a certain amount of money in various funds, economic fund, social fund and so on, but it's the UK government that decides what it's going to do with that money. So after the bomb went off, European money was top sliced from whatever the budgets happened to be and used to promote the design competition, won in the end by a consortium led by Ian Simpson, who built the Beetham Tower, and get the whole thing started.
Post-Brexit, clearly, different local governments around the UK will not have access to the kind of European money they've had access in the past. As to whether the British government will step up and offer resources in its place, it's a moot point. The kind of setting out of austerity for the next 5, 10, 15 years suggests that there isn't going to be any more money swishing about. And in fact, there hasn't really been an urban policy in place since 2010, the coalition government.
I think your question is a difficult one. In or out of the EU, in or out of any group of interreliance, is probably something that is essential for any city to be. Cities don't just function as individual places. They have to find their own individuality, but any city weaves into a different philosophical, sociological, socio-economical, geopolitical map, carpet, whatever you call it. So if you're part of a network of cities, whose ever general overall sphere of influence that is, or however much the complex is, whose complex that might be, who's at the centre of that, is a matter of inevitability. Cities don't exist individually. They exist within a bigger social network and in different sorts of clusters. And as such, I think if a city gets attacked or have anything malign done to it, others have to go and help.
Research from Britain Stronger in Europe shows that Manchester has received millions of pounds from the EU in regards to funding, supporting major prospects in the city. In total, the Northwest has received over £900 million. The Graphene Institute at the University of Manchester, the Royal Eye Hospital, the National Football Museum, and many more. This funding has helped rebuild Manchester, Being a member of Europe's free trade single market brings jobs, low prices, and much investment to the UK, with research showing that European funding benefits Manchester directly.
What are my thoughts on Brexit? Unsurprisingly, it's a little bit more complicated than people thought it was. That the referendums are not a particularly progressive way of dealing with big issues. That for some people, if you present a easy option to a hard problem, they will take the easy option without necessarily thinking things through. And that for a city like Manchester that has aspirations to be in the world, to have a kind of global orientation, it makes it a little bit less, it makes it harder to not be in the EU, particularly if you're talking about a place like the university, which has a European or global workforce and a European and global student population and attracts money from all over the world. Makes the university's job a little harder. And yeah, there's an awful lot of time and effort that's been spent on Brexit that could have been spent on other things, but we'll wait and see, I guess, next March.
Brexit is probably about the most stupid thing that could happen to this country. And it's difficult to kind of rationalise for somebody like me why anybody would inflict this on this country. I get really quite cross about it. I find it difficult to sort of have a rational conversation. I feel very strongly about Brexit being a bad thing.
Well, personally, I voted for Brexit for my own reasons, largely economic reasons, because the disparities of the economies in the European Union and free movement together produces mass movement labour, which doesn't do a whole lot.
2016 referendum has caused a UK that is split down the middle. As we move forward into a new age, is an independent Britain the best outcome for a country that has benefited so much from its membership? Only time will tell.